Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1 versus 1 game on the map Concealed Hill, and this is from the Soul Backyard Booty Brawl um, sort of games that we were playing. So, anyways, this game is actually a pretty solid game, though it is going to be into doing a strategy that is quite frustrating to go against, and it really tests your patience and sort of focus, not to mention your sort of knowledge in how to counter something like this. At any rate, um, so he's going to be going for a human, and I'm going to be going for undead. We're both random in this game, um, so I'm just going to do an early hero build here. I'm going to scout early with an acolyte, which is actually not something that I do frequently, to be honest. A lot of times I'll either just go for um, like an early fiend build with a delayed hero, or sometimes I'll go with an early hero, but I won't acolyte scout. I'll go for a fiend build. I just won't build that extra acolyte to scout, which is probably not the greatest idea to do in solo. If you're very familiar with the matchups and everything, it's one thing. But in this particular case, he's random, so I did this so I would have an idea of what the opponent's race was. I wasn't gonna leave it to chance. Just to wing it because I don't know what race he is. I can't counter any specific strategies per se until I know. Um, so yeah, but I'm gonna get the graveyard. I'm gonna go for a relatively early tech. And I see that he's human. I'm gonna try not to lose this acolyte here into rocking the 400 APM. Pretty solid. Um, but yeah, in terms of the food, I'm at 17 over 20, so I can basically get a fiend after this ghoul finishes. Or I can build another ghoul and then go from there. So I see that he's going to call to arms here a couple of peasants, chase this off, and I'm going to keep this around to poke around and see, does he get a tower? What's he going? I assume since he's going this direction, he's going to go for this. Very common for a human to do this. He's going to do it relatively cleanly. I'm just going to leave this acolyte to distract him a bit, sort of force him to deal with it, force him to run a worker, and everything like that. So at this particular point, I am about 120 gold away from teching. He's gonna get this camp pretty much uncontested. Yeah, he called to arms. Let's see, like 4 peasants, so he gets it done before I can show up. That's pretty smart, and that's, I guess, probably the meta on how you're supposed to deal with this early harass. He didn't actually scout me though, so he didn't scout me early with anything, so he doesn't know. He didn't know what my race was, so he was sort of going in the dark there. But you probably do this. You can probably do this relatively effectively versus all the races. I mean, you're basically just giving up some lumber for like an early half level 1 or close, really getting close to 2 here. So he's gonna call to arms this worker, and I'm gonna split the skeletons on multiple different peasants, hoping that this one will definitely get killed. With the skeleton. He does a fairly good job of microing though, and actually does get this one saved. Oh my goodness. He's going to force me to bring more skeletons in to get that kill. I do get one peasant kill here, and I'm going to go for the other one. He's doing a good job. He's in position to actually stop this, and again, also he gets the claws +5, which helps him to do this easier. Like, whereas he might not have saved it a minute ago if he didn't get a couple of those +5 hits on the skeleton. With the Archmage, at least one. I might have gotten that kill a little bit easier, but I only get 2 kills there, and he has to run around. So his lumber situation is it's okay. He's gonna rebuild these peasants, so it's really his gold income. I mean, temporarily it's his lumber income, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be his gold that it cost him. But he does get level 2 off the skeletons. He's really close to 2 anyway, but that means that he's gonna get to 3 relatively easily. So he in terms of defending that, he did. He probably could have did slightly better, maybe saved one of them, but it's gonna be hard to save both with all the skeletons and stuff. I could have continued to pressure. I pick up a staff and a boots. This is probably these items are probably technically a mistake. This is a lot of gold, and now while it will help me to sort of harass more easily and stuff, he's got an arcane tower now. It'll help me to avoid surrounds, but the problem is that's these 2 items together is going to be 400 gold, which is quite a costly investment. And I don't really know that I get the most benefit out of them over the course of the game. We'll see. But I'm going to dive his base. I see that he's over here creeping. He has gotten level 3, got a Parrot Vitality, pretty good item in terms of keeping the Archmage alive. If when it comes to focus firing him or whatever hero he ends up dropping that item on, possibly a Paladin or an MK because they're melee heroes, a lot of times that's what I do with those items. But in terms of like having it on the Archmage, it's sort of it sort of surprises people like, oh, this Archmage is an intelligence hero, but he's at 725 hit points, so he actually has more hit points than my DK. Now he's level 3, so yeah, basically what I've done though is when you're looking at the hero levels, I probably could have. I basically sacrificed like my creeping for uh, for taking a shot at his income, his lumber income specifically. So he wants to go for this expo, but he also wants to tech. So he's gonna have to sort of make a decision, and he wants to tower this before he gets it done. It seems like, so it'll be safe. It's probably smart. Getting one arcane tower up here is actually going to be very, very annoying for this harass. I honestly though I should have macroed this better. These ghouls should have been in this base when he was over here. So if I'm macro this better, I think I just shut this down way more easily. But I didn't. So yeah, I run the DK into the tower. It doesn't really matter since I don't think I have enough mana for a Death Cool anyway. But now he blocks me off. I actually have to use his staff, and actually staff to the one that's like right by his footman. So he almost actually snags his kill, which was pretty bad on my end. But the boots actually end up saving me here. So one more hit would have cost me my hero. So but yeah, the ghouls weren't in position. I think I'm gonna miss this peasant kill. I need to go on the peasant. The peasant is the thing that's gonna, yeah, that's a mistake. Not killing that peasant, a mistake. Keeping the footman, or sorry, the ghoul alive is pretty good. But notice his tech hasn't started, and he hasn't finished his expo, and we're like 7.5 minutes in. The towers are on the left side, so if I transition to fiends well enough and like certain heroes, I'm gonna probably attack this from the right side. So not doing that, probably a mistake. He's gonna get a pretty brutal creepjack here. I don't do this very well. I almost get the Lich surrounded, which is like a nightmare. I cast a Nova, and it's really easy to with Aura, which is what I wanted to. I definitely need to get Aura, in some sense to defend this off easily. But yeah, it's really hard for like the footman with an Archmage to secure kills against when I get the aura up. So now he has the guard tower in his base, along with an arcane tower, and he has 2 guard towers and an arcane tower just about finished up in his expo, though it is pretty far away. So this positioning is, he should have put the hall like right. I don't know. It's questionable. Like if I come in from the bottom, this isn't too terrible, but if I come in from the right, I can really punish this positioning from here pretty easily. Put a Lich there, shooting Novas, doing auto attacks. I didn't do it, so that was a mistake. I'm gonna run up here and try to pressure him. I think I forced a TP, but he's getting in. His creeping is way better than mine so far. He's killing it on the creep game. And he picks up a Shredder. This is another thing that allows him to sort of shore up the damage that I did to his economy. The Shredder is a very cost-effective. Like, it counts as like, in terms of the lumber income, it's worth, the lumber harvest of the Shredder is worth 10 peasants, and it does not cost the gold of 10 peasants. It's only 425 gold. It costs 100 lumber, so the cost is split between gold and lumber, which is an interesting, and this timing is actually pretty good for him. I actually decide not to run into his expo. I have a TP. Honestly, I should have just towered this and played aggressively. Playing defensively versus the expo is not how you're supposed to do it, I don't think. And I didn't want to give this I didn't want to give this shop up. But I think just making all these Nerubian towers and one destroyer would have handled this, and then I could have been just feasting on these peasants. So that was an error on my part. Especially if I knew this tower. I guess in some sense I did know the tower position was sort of there. I didn't know he built the town hall like here though, and he didn't tower it. So I thought he would have built it more close, so the towers could cover like some of the angles. Even if the town hall was here though, I still could probably get to this point. So it's it's kind of awkward trying to protect all the angles, of course. But yeah, if he's in my base and he gets me playing defensively, he doesn't actually have to. It's not important that he's not covering all the angles. Now he's gonna shore it up a little bit, but he still sort of misses this spot. Like if I go around this direction, or if I just get through here and here, I can cast Rain of Fire from here, stop his income. Stopping the income is very important. Let's see, 12,500 for this gold mine. Actually, there's not more gold in the middle income. I would have thought this gold mine would have been kind of like on Turtle Rock, where the middle ones, they're more exposed, but they have more gold as like a sort of a benefit. But that's actually not the case here. They're all three of the gold mines have the same amount of gold when before they start getting mined, obviously. Um, so yeah, pick up a Pit Lord. I actually went Cleave first. That's also a mistake in terms of like trying to attack the expo or the main base or anything like that. Um, if I could have gotten a Zeppelin in here, that would have potentially been sort of a little cheese I could have done. Just drop like the Lich and maybe the Lich and the Pit Lord or something, or a Fiend in the Lich or something. That could have been some fun to have with him, but anyways, didn't quite do it. I run headlong into the tower. I tank this with the Pit Lord, which is dumb. I've got the DK sitting here. He doesn't switch off the targeting. So actually, it doesn't matter that the Pit Lord doesn't have mana, because I actually went Cleave first, as I mentioned. But I'm just bashing my head into the worst part. I should have busted the tower on the right and then come in from the side. Soul mentioned that to me mentioned that to me after the game, or the next day, I think it was actually. But now he's level 4. He's in my base with Blizzard, and now the fact that he's got this clause since he retrained a Blizzard is sort of counterproductive. I mean, Blizzard's a great spell, and he's actually gonna do a lot of damage here. He needed to be much quicker with the Zeppelin there. But this is also, this timing is also a little bit risky, because all I got to do is get a Garg, and if I have a Fiend, it's gonna be dangerous. I was a real slow to micro off of that. So he almost snagged a couple of kills there. Which that damage, if I'm playing well, wouldn't have happened. But I'm trying to pull back and like assess the situation. Oh my goodness, did I creep this and not get the items? So dumb if I did. The ghouls are there. He's gonna staff away. I don't know why he really did that, honestly. I guess he wanted to heal. I think he should have just got picked up by the Zeppelin, but I guess he was a little bit concerned about like a guard or something coming in. I don't do this super efficiently. I need to pull the dragon and then get by the fountain for healing. So I didn't, but I do have the statue here healing, so it's not like the end of the world. So now the Garg is gonna. Wow, what am I doing? I don't see it. I need to have this patrolling the back there. It's a massive oversight. He doesn't actually. Does he see it? He doesn't have vision of this Garg either, so he might make a massive blunder there if he somehow gets. But he's gonna have to move the Zeppelin, so he'll probably either see it or it'll come from another angle. We'll see how that plays out in the game. But yeah, at this point he has mined 25, just a little bit over 2,500, 2,600 gold out of his expo. And his lumber situation is probably fine. Yeah, he's got the shredder. His lumber is great, but he is sacrificing. When you do this and focus on so many towers, you are giving up map control. He's going to pull the Zeppelin in here, distract me a bit, but he's not actually going to get any of these Acolyte kills, thankfully. I've got the statue sitting here healing. That healing is going to go a long ways towards mitigating some of this damage. I need to be using the ghouls. Go, gadget ghouls. If I was really, really in good position, I think about it, I'm like, oh, I could dive his base and maybe get lucky, but oh my gosh, he was out in the front. Oh my gosh, that would have been so good just to show up. The pro play there, like the like 4D chess move there would have been like to immediately realize he's probably going to TP to his main. He has a shop at his expo though, so he possibly doesn't TP there. He possibly TPs, but if he TPs in the back, he's going to be stuck. Well, actually, no. It looked like he could get out, so maybe not. Maybe he wouldn't be stuck there, actually. So he could have TP'd in the back. But if he TP's out in the front where the shop is, as he did, I could have been there to bust him with Coil Nova. Possibly surprised him and just totally taking control. But anyways, what I was going to mention, though, is when you do this strategy and you mass up towers and you try to go into some kind of... Some people will say tank cheese, which is, I think they're super cost effective, though it's really boom or bust. Like if you give the undead too long to get their own expo up, to get, their heroes power leveled, especially on a map like this where I get to heal at the fountain. And there's like 3 reds. 2 of them are at fountains, and the middle one, is like right there. But I TP in, I'm gonna pick off these footmen. Um, but yeah, if you do this and you spend so much on towers, he just doesn't have an army to. Well, A, he doesn't have an army to really creep that well, the Reds. And the other thing is he doesn't have an army to stop me from creeping or stop me from expanding, which is what I'm doing here. I'm actually throwing up 2 necropolises. And the reason I do that is I do suspect at this point he is going to go for some kind of cheesy build. Maybe tanks, maybe flying machines, uh, but yeah, and this is actually supply for no lumber too. So I don't know my lumber. I got a fair bit of lumber, so I'm not really in trouble with lumber. But I keep having to pull these ghouls and like attack the archmage and stuff. So um, gonna try to snipe off this MK. He does not have a staff of sanctuary just yet. I should have just kept diving on the MK. I mean, it's obviously easier to pop that footman, um, but yeah, it looks like he wants to blizzard this gold mine. I don't know how close like if he's like right here. I don't know if he can actually hit like these back acolytes, but that's an interesting move there. That's how do I not see him here? My reaction was like this game was like really late at night. So, but oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh my gosh. Oh, is that not that wasn't the real one? That was an illusion. Is that what it was? Yeah. Okay, that makes. Yeah. Okay, I think I did. I think I did actually know that it was an illusion for some reason. Like I think he had attacked or something, and I saw that it was fake. So I didn't waste a bunch of mana on it, luckily. But anyways though, I'm gonna repair this, and then I got these ghouls that they're gonna be like I'm 63 lumber. I need these ghouls actually to be harvesting lumber here. This is the longer I don't realize these ghouls are chasing, the worse it is. I finally do. He's gonna come here. I have a shade pit. I need to. Shade's actually gonna be fairly useful to see the directions that he's coming here, and like what he's coming at me with. So that was the thought process. It is quite a lot of lumber. I think that's the reason I was actually lumber, sort of in bad lumber in a not great lumber situations, because that thing does cost like 150 or 175. I think it used to be like 200 lumber, but I think they reduced it a little bit. So yeah, now I'm deciding like, okay, how do I want to attack this? I'm also making, for a while I was under 50 food, but now we're both in low upkeep. So he's really going into the tanks. I have to be prepared with like a meat wagon. He gets the ziggurat in the front. That was a smart move. Honestly, he needs to come from this side. He's gonna take a little bit less damage from, because this Nerubian tower is not gonna hit this like far enough to catch this. I guess actually these two are fine, so not actually a big deal. He gets the crypt. That was bad that I let him kill that for free. Like it wasn't for nothing, but I could have saved it, I think, which would have, like being able in terms of my production, that was like half of my production buildings in terms of like combat units. So he's gonna blizzard here, and I don't know if this is the angle or this is the angle to catch like the bottom ones, but he's gonna do some damage. If he can catch this ziggurat too, that would have been quite useful for him to put damage. I don't know if he could from there or not. I've never actually tried that. That was a pretty decent attempt. I mean, he can just stand there and keep blizzarding. I don't know why he stopped, honestly. Maybe he thought my army was going to be closer, which I guess technically it is. But and now he wants to run in here and get this. The problem with this though is this MK and this paladin. I don't know if these were necessarily a good choice. Like I obviously try hero. If you level it, is going to be pretty good, and being able to abuse like 3 staffs or 2 staffs of sanctuary is good. But look, he's going to feed me a free hero. Like it's level 1, yeah, sure. And the paladin he saved with Staff of Sanctuary, but in terms of like buying those heroes, that's 425 gold and 100 lumber for each one. The lumber isn't a big deal for him, and the gold honestly isn't either. But he's at like 1,000 gold. He has to, if he's gonna do this, he really needs to power to 80 food. Like just, I know it's like it seems kind of hard to do that and everything like that, but like he was on sort of a timer, sort of a window where now my heroes are really strong, and like he hasn't really done enough damage. I make a massive error here and almost lose 2 statues just to blizzard, and then I'm like panicked. I was like, oh gosh, and I made them destroyers, but like that's completely retarded. Like to have them just sitting there, like usually they'll, I don't know why I guess they don't like scatter when they get hit with stuff if they're just AFK, but um yeah, I guess they're ranged. So if he's in range of the statues, they're just going to attack him, I guess. So that was how that happened. So that was on me for not moving it. I need to put this meat wagon in range of these siege tanks. Siege engines will slowly do it. He loses the MK. But yeah, what I was saying about like the MK Paladin, like what did they really offer here? Like, you know, level 1 heals are okay, but like the main thrust of his like attacks and stuff are really the tanks. Like just imagine if he has like you know 4 more tanks here in terms of like you know 850 gold. What does that buy? You know, basically buys like 4 tanks or something like that. Um, so yeah, the MK Paladin they're gonna scale well if you start to level, but if they don't level, they're really just gonna be like you know like sort of easy targets. Let's say he's basically just gonna have to every time we engage, he's just gonna have to staff his heroes away, or if he's gonna have to heal this one, he doesn't. He gets a TP off. He doesn't even have the heal there for the Archmage, so that was a bit of a misstep for him. Again, this was super late, so again, I'm trying to block it with these acolytes. Oh my goodness, come on, do it. Yeah, this takes. I should have been able to do this way easier once I actually got there, but I was like, dirt, dirt, dirt. But anyways, um, yeah, the Nerubian Tower is very cost effective against these tanks because you can split. Like it's gonna reduce their damage output by it's like 25%, I think. I want to say it like slows the move speed by 50% and attack speed by 25 or something like that. But yeah, you know, it just slows them down, and limiting their DPS for 100 gold and 20 lumber is very good. And you can switch like between 2 targets if you're like actually try hard microing it. Just attack one, attack the other, attack, you know, switch back and forth, back and forth. So you can sort of control 2 siege, reduce 2 siege engines DPS. He's coming in here with like 3 tanks at a time. If he just was able to pump out like a few more, like he's got tanks building at 2 of these. He's not actually using the 3rd one, so that was a bit of a mistake. Like, you know, it's gonna be a lot of times it's gonna be the little things. Wow, that was a poor micro job on the acolyte. And losing that Nerubian Tower is actually a big deal. Like it doesn't end up hurting me too much, but it does make these allow these tanks to get in and out. Like these would be getting slowed if I had that tower still there. Both of them probably would get slowed, so I could chase them down easier. Etc. Notice he's not managing to find any way to level these heroes. The other thing about that is this map is pretty small, arguably. So it's not like Twisted Meadows where like at certain points he could pull back and find some green camps. Like, you know, maybe not at this particular point, but like before it got to this point, you know, when he was starting to throw in the tanks at me, if it was like Lost Temple or something like that, you know, he could throw tanks at me and then he could pull off and get like level 2-2, level 3-3 on these heroes. And then it would be a totally different thing because then he would actually be able to threaten to pop off, you know, a fiend here, you know, sort of pressure my heroes. But now it's like I'm 4-4-4 and he's like 4-1-1. Like it's just in battles, he's not going to be able to stand with me, really. Soul suggested that if at some point he just stops going tanks and just switches to Knight Flying Machine, he probably could have just rolled my Expo. And honestly, that is probably a pretty good assessment because I just have 3 destroyers. Like he is gonna need a sort of a critical mass of knights to be able to contend with my heroes. Because like I said, the hero levels are very high for me now. 4-4-4, and if he starts dropping knights, I'm gonna hit. You know, I'm already 5 on the Death Knight, so 5-4-4. Level 3 Death Coil. I'm set for mana. I need a statue running around with me. Having to or morphing those 2 statues into destroyers, and then not having a statue here is actually a pretty big risk. But he hasn't been like I haven't been using mana, so it's not really a big problem. But generally, like a lot of times, especially if he switches to Knight Flying Machine, like I need a statue to keep the mana pulls up and stuff. So he comes in here with 4 tanks this time, and he's gonna split. This is a pretty good split. He's gonna knock this Nerubian Tower down. I don't think I'm switching the targets, but I do have a Frostworm now, which is gonna be another way to attack these tanks. It's gonna be like a moving Nerubian Tower sort of a deal with a ton of damage, obviously. So yeah, now once the Frostworm comes out, these tanks are no longer like before they were like a nuisance. Now they're just like tomes of experience. Like they're yeah they're still putting in some damage, but like that was like that was 12 food that he just like he staffed one of them. Okay, so if he staffs both of them, that's one thing. But like again, I think the window was like he he's going to be a little bit annoying to keep me from the second expo. But like I've got about 9,000 gold left in that one. He's only got 2,000 left here. So he is on a clock now. He started getting gold way faster than me. So so in the long run, if he mines that out, he's gonna have no gold income until he can possibly get to this. You know, if neither of us get this gold mine, but we just stay on these two and we mine them all the way out, I'm gonna have much more gold to work with at this, like, sort of in the grand scheme we had about this, arguably a really close amount. But a lot of his he dumped into towers, and I'm just not going to engage. Like, look at all these towers that he built. Like, at the end of it all, I'm not really going to run into those towers. Like, if he wants to try to sit at the towers, I'll just take this. I'll make him come to me. I'll make him fight me at my, either on my side of the map or somewhere away from the towers. So that's not going to be an issue. I'll make a couple of meat wagons, like one or two meat wagons, and I'll be able to, like, slowly push these down. So these are sort of dead weight now. Like, they're only temporary. Like, they fall off, kind of like a lot of units, like footmen and stuff. They're gonna fall off late game, especially something that's stationary like this. They just don't. That's not gonna be the move. Um, so, but obviously, like, at the timing, like, it worked out to stop, my tier 3 timing push, and I probably shouldn't have actually stopped it, but I didn't really correctly assess the situation and attack it from the right angle, like from this angle. This was the sort of the weak point of and I don't even think these towers were here at first, but this was the weak point of his expo, um, and I did not attack it. I came in from, like, this his strong point, and, like, that was the massive mistake actually. Um, I didn't just, like, totally lose everything, but it, like, the timing and everything, I took a lot of damage, didn't do enough damage, and then I just sort of conceded, like, okay, I'm just gonna pull back, and I'm gonna play this, like, I'm gonna just play the expo game with him. And a lot of times against tanks, you have to be very careful. Like, if I don't get a meat wagon in that scenario, like in my main and in my expo, like, you can, even with the expo, you can, like, if you miss it, like, if you just aren't, if you're slightly out of position or unprepared for these tanks, you're gonna start losing buildings at an alarming rate, and then you're in really trouble, because if there's ziggurats, you could get supply blocked, and then it doesn't matter how much gold you have if you're supply blocked, um, you're not gonna be able to build stuff. So, and that's sort of how the tank strategy frequently works. Um, so yeah, but the window is, you have to be able. The other thing is, you have to be able to kill the meat wagons. Like, if he has, like, a handful of footmen, for example, and if he still had water elementals are much more dangerous against meat wagons because they can move. So I don't know if it was necessarily the best move to retrain for. I don't know. It's, in terms of fighting my, like, it's hard to say. Like, he did work with Blizzard in the back, but he didn't secure kills with it, and it cost 250 gold to 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 retrain to Blizzard. I mean, obviously he has a ton of gold, but, like, in terms of the timing, he had to get a Zeppelin. All in all, did it pay off? It was probably more of, I don't know if it was. It probably did sort of pay off, but I feel like it wasn't, like, as power as, like, it wasn't maybe his most cost effective move. Now he's got these flying machines. This is, like, you have to be careful. If he had enough of them before he, like, tipped his hand and he caught me, like, out of position, maybe kills, like, one or two destroyers, maybe even kills the frostworm if he gets a bolt off. That's gonna be a big game changer. So, you know, but he's out of gold now, so he doesn't have the luxury to do that. Um, so now this is basically his army, and if he can't beat me now, which he can't really beat me now, and stop the expo and everything, and plus I can unsummon buildings in my base actually. So the window is pretty much past for him to beat me. The levels are too crazy. It's game over. The rest of this is just, like, he's about to leave anyway, so he understands, like, the situation. Um, but yeah, that's the window for like, with human, with especially with only two bases against, letting me get the expo up is, like, you know and I've got a shade here. He's got the he's got the flying machines. Wasn't that killing the shade? Okay, there he goes. At some point I got, like, an acolyte surrounded on tank, which is pretty funny, but down here at the bottom. But anyways, yeah, this is the thing about really about dumping all these resources into towers and stuff, is, like, you know, um, it's not mobile. Now, obviously, I got some towers too, but like I didn't get nearly as many. I got like 2 here, and like I think I probably built like 5 there total because he killed some of them. Uh, I think he killed 2, so maybe only 4, I guess. But but yeah, how does affect siege engines? So that's an important thing. Cleave hits siege engines. As you can see, I don't know why I didn't go for the death coil. What am I doing? Oh, I didn't have the mana. That's right. I was trying to keep these like kite with these things and prevent this AoE from being, good game. But it actually doesn't really matter if he kills his stuff at this particular moment. But it's always good not to just slack off when you can. Like, just because you can't slack off, don't, like, if you start doing stuff like that, you'll be in games where you'll sort of do that when you can't, and it'll cost you games. So, but yeah, this was like, you know, late at night, whatever, custom game, who cares? I mean, obviously, I was, to play it out like this, and to sort of try to be really diligent against this. I really didn't want to lose this game, and I'm sure Indo, would rather have definitely been much happier if he wanted to, but yeah. So that's the thing. Against, like, with any kind of strategy where you're in some sense going all in and being aggressive into their base, like he sort of started to do with the tanks. Uh, all the advantages, or generally the advantages are going to be for the defender. You have to be like you have to have some way to overwhelm that, and sort of the theory with that strategy is that tanks are very good at destroying bases, and their defense is actually very good against most of the undead's core units, with the exception of meat wagons. Basically everything is going to do reduced damage to the siege engines. Like I guess ghouls and A-bombs, and then meat wagons are really like basically fiends, Gargs, Destroyers, Worms, any towers that you have, Spirit Towers in Black Citadel or Halls of the Dead, they're all doing severely reduced damage against the fortified armored tanks. Um, Piercing and magic damage get reduced by like 65% against fortified armor. So if you're talking about basically cutting 2/3 of your damage off, reducing it by basically really close to 2/3, um, reducing it down to 1/3 is another way to say that. Then you can see why that's pretty good. And the other thing is the cost. Like siege engines are like 195 gold, and their lumber cost is fairly significant. But like if you have a shredder, that's doesn't really matter. So you're talking about something that basically costs less than a fiend in terms of gold and food, or sorry, in terms of gold. The lumber cost is more, so maybe it's similar to the cost of a fiend. It used to be the same food cost as well, but they bumped the tanks up to the siege engines up to 4 food, so slightly more food for the tanks, which sort of helps. But they can bust buildings fairly well, especially if you catch the undead with only like 5 repair workers, and they're maybe they're a little slow to react or something like that. Um, and then if they're gonna use all the 5 acolytes to repair, their income is gonna be dropped to 0. Whereas you think about other races in terms of like when they want to repair, like they can repair with their lumber workers. Ghouls can't do that, so it's sort of a racial disadvantage in some sense. Um, I don't know if the repair rates of the acolytes, how they match up with the peasants and peons and stuff. I assume it's relatively similar. So I would say in terms of like fast repairing stuff, undead are typically in a bad situation, because like if you have like, let's say you have like 15 workers in your base, 5 on gold and like 10 on lumber or something, or it can be less or more, whatever. But like assume you just have more than 5. All those workers, when there's nothing attacking, they can be building, they can be harvesting gold or harvesting lumber, and there's no downtime. If you have like 10, 12 acolytes in your base, like only 5 can harvest anything. Like you don't need multiple acolytes to build. Like they summon buildings, so you don't need them to build, and they don't harvest lumber. So it's like, so basically you're typically not going to have more than 5. If you start seeing these tanks and raiders and stuff, you can build more, but there's going to be downtime for those units, those worker units, those acolytes. When nothing's in your base, they're not going to be really doing anything. There's going to be like food that's not contributing anything. Like at least like with peasants and peons and stuff, they'll be In Wisp, they'll be harvesting lumber or gold or whatever, but they'll be harvesting something, So it's a little bit annoying as on undead in that instance. It'd probably be kind of dumb if ghouls could repair. Like I don't think it'd be broken or anything. It just would like thematically it would just and like it just seems like really silly that it's not a worker. It's not a like a builder. Like a lot of things are that can repair or like builder units, of course. So it would seem weird to be like, oh, a ghoul can repair, but in terms of balance, that would be an interesting change. I think these are sort of edge cases where it's like, you know, it doesn't really matter, and maybe the acolyte repair rate is higher than the other races workers, which would mitigate it, and or that's sort of a change you could do. But I think people would probably complain about that too. So, and again, is it a real problem for undead? Probably not. Like I said, it's an edge. This is sort of an edge case, I think, where like you got like raiders or bats, or with bats you can't even repair because of liquid fire typically. So that's not a. But like with raiders, and then with raiders they can ensnare, so you're not really going to be repairing there either. So it's really like tanks, mortar teams, demos, these type of armies, or just large, like really big armies, like in fours or something, where they're hitting your base. Um, other races typically can pull like a ton of workers, and sort of if they really need that repair rate, they will have it. Whereas undead just typically won't. They'll just have 5 workers, and I guess the sort of compensating factor is that undead bases tend to be very like so good that people don't generally want to attack into them. Because of Blight and like the Halls of the Dead or the Black Citadel and then the Rubian Towers. But honestly, I think that's a bit. I'm not gonna say that undead bases aren't bad to fight like a standing battle in, but like in those scenarios that I'm talking about, typically there aren't armies there. So typically it's like a base race scenario or like some kind of like harass with raiders or tanks. And in that window, you need repair rate. Like that's sort of a thing that can be very useful is more repair. And if you don't have it, it could be a disaster. Like if 2 people on your team have to go get TPs or something like that, or like I said, it's a base race, and you have one side that can repair with like 15 workers, and the other side can repair with only 5 workers. Obviously, one side's town hall is going to die much quicker, and then they can TP. They can TP back to it. So there's like all kinds of. So sometimes you maybe want to have 2 necropolises in your base, like for those scenarios. I guess that's another flip side is undead can build an Acropolis for 255 gold and 0 lumber, whereas the other races can't do. It requires a lot of gold and a lot more. Sorry, it requires more gold and it requires lumber, which a lot of lumber, which the Necropolis doesn't require. So I guess there are sort of mitigating factors that make it not really a big problem. Um, but yeah, in some circumstances like this, it is it would be nice to be able to repair fast in some sense. But if you really need that repair against the siege engines, like you are probably you probably messed up somewhere. You're probably just messed up somewhere else. Like you didn't have a meat wagon or something. You didn't have Nerubian towers. Your base layout was bad or something like that. Um, but that's where it comes into like decision making. Like in this game, um, let's assume that let's assume I didn't build those meat wagons. Those tanks probably would have been able to would probably been able to roll me. Honestly, if he didn't build that second, third hero, I feel like, and then maybe he doesn't, instead of getting the Tome of Retraining, maybe he just keeps it with water elementals. Like what he's even though Blizzard was dishing out decent damage to my Ziggurats and stuff, which again could potentially be a disaster, and he was, he a couple of times he was actually catching my acolytes with a fair bit of damage, but I don't know that he actually killed any of the main acolytes with it. So, um, um, but yeah. Oh, plus if he does that Zeppelin thing with like the second, third, with a Mountain King for example as well, he can Stormbolt, and he's definitely going to be able to pick off some of these acolytes, and it can start to be a bit of a problem. But it was like, what did the MK and Paladin really offer in that game? And obviously it's hindsight, but it wasn't like they didn't really do much of anything, honestly. Like they threw some heals at the Archmage. It's like, well, honestly, would you have just been better off to just pick up a few heal potions? I mean, obviously, if you keep the Paladin up and being able to use staff, you can get value out of that. But it's like, I think he needed to be a little bit more aggressive. Once he started like got the expo like secured. Of course, it's mostly hindsight. I mean, it's very easy to look at a replay and say, oh, you could have did this and that. Same thing for me. Like I look at the replay and it's like, oh well, these towers were far enough away from his gold line where I could have exploited it. Look at the replay and it's like, oh, I ran into his base and got my DK surrounded and I staffed out and almost got almost just punted away the early game to him. I mean, arguably I did. I ran in there when he had you know had the tower up, and it wasn't likely I was going to do much damage there, honestly. Once he got that tower up, I could have been a little better on my timing with this harassing the expo. I left one peasant with like, I don't know, probably 20 hit points at the expo and all this. So, I needed to creep to 2 quicker than I did. I probably could have pulled the ghouls, been creeping while I was harassing. I don't know if I had that many ghouls left in my main when I did the first harass on him. I think I pulled like most of those. So maybe it would have been a little bit challenging. But I think one of my ziggurats was like my third ziggurat was probably late, which really hurt me in terms of getting the lich out. Which probably hurt me in terms of creeping that camp, and yeah, there was all kinds of little things you see in looking at the replay. But we can look at the score screen here. Resource wise, the gold loss to upkeep, I thought it would have been way worse for him in terms of like losing gold to upkeep, but it actually wasn't. He was actually only like 260, so 64 something. So yeah, 64 gold, more gold loss to upkeep, which considering how long he had the expo, was pretty good. Tech percentage 40-3. That's kind of funny. I guess that's probably upgrades. Like I assume his tanks were like 3-3 since that's what he was massing out, and I didn't get a bunch of upgrades on the fiends, which actually probably was dumb. I need to get those attack upgrades. I don't know that I got. Trying to think. I think at various points I did get sort of in trouble with lumber, so I was like, I'd rather just have more units typically, but yeah, units killed, of course, largely on my favor. Hero kills 6-9. That's at the very end of the game though, so it's like units produced. He made more. Total, like this is net gold mined. Is accounts for the upkeep, which was very close. Even if it didn't, these numbers were very close. So that wasn't the massive determining factor. But anyways, though he mined, it looks like about 4,800 more or something, maybe 4,700 more gold than me, possibly. Or no, I'm sorry. He actually mined a full 5,000, about 5,300 more than me. Oof, that math wrong. So yeah, that's oh wait, no, God, I'm sorry. I'm really I'm forgetting. I'm on the top there. So look at these numbers backwards. So yeah, he mined. It was somewhere just a little bit under 5,000. 5,000 for me there. So for him. So he did have more to work with, but I don't know. I don't know if this accounts for creeping, because I did a lot more creeping than he did. Like the hero experience gained, a lot of this was not. A lot of it was from units eventually, but a lot of it was actually the red camps, dude. Like I did all the red camps, so I got all the red camps. Mm, there were some camps left on the map where I probably could have cleaned those up too, but he was rolling the tanks at me, so it was difficult to find time to do those camps. I felt like so, and my heroes were like, oh, getting them to 555 obviously would have been amazing, but yeah, you typically don't want to let the tanks just like go, like have free reign. And I was playing defense for most of that game, which is actually like, it's not that it's necessarily complicated, but like if you have a misstep typically and you start losing buildings, like it's real. A lot of times it's really difficult to come back. So, but yeah, if you just have like a meat wagon or two in your base in your expo, like it pretty much controls those tanks. Like he has to deal with it some other way, like water elementals level 2 or 3, for example. And that's sort of what I was talking about, like why he maybe doesn't need to go for those second heroes, or if he does, maybe a panda second, honestly, because at least the panda hits buildings, AOE, it hits air, which the MK doesn't really do that well, and it hits mechanical targets, statues, um, and meat wagons, which is pretty good. I do. People will say I'm a big fan of the panda. It's one of my favorite heroes. Like it's like I see it's got a good ultimate. I like the abilities Drunken Haze Breath of Fire. His passive, if you get past like level 7, is not gonna be like dead weight. It's a passive, so it's like useful without mana and everything. But it at those hit points and those damage numbers, like it would get like it would be very valuable as an ability. Um, so yeah, it's just that his other abilities are more like they're just that much more powerful, which is pretty to say that he's got a great ability, a great passive, like it's arguably better numbers than like evasion and critical strike. To say that is like I think it's like having 2/3 of either one of those, I think, or something, or half, I forget, but it's like not half, but I think it's like 2/3 the effect of both of those spells. So you think it's like it's you know, um, like 33% more effective or something like that. Um, Maybe. So then two abilities that are basically uh, auto picks for the Demon Hunter and the Blade Master. That sounds great, but as good as that is, it's not as good as the synergy and the impact of Drunken Haze and Breath of Fire. So yeah, and then his ultimate is really fun too. It's like it's not just like useful. It's not just like Infernal I mean, Infernal is fun too, but like it's an interesting ultimate. Like he pops into 3 pandas, and then you get to micro 3 pandas, and they all have their they're like wind and earth and fire sort of a deal. So that's fun. It's pretty cool. Like I like it. It's like thematic, like Asian. That sounds sort of bad, but like Eastern sort of philosophy or something like that. I don't know. Like I don't want to say like the Last Airbender or something like that because I actually haven't I've only seen like the movie of that or whatever. So it's like I don't really know. I don't really know much about the lore or whatever for that, but the story of it. But anyways, the game was, we were talking a little bit of trash about the tank strategy being cheesy, me and Soul, during the game. But it's just a strategy. It's like any other strategy. It's just that the towers and stuff, it just seems like non-interactive. Like, okay, you're gonna make a bunch of towers that I don't want to fight into, and so I'm gonna do a bunch of creeping, and then you're gonna make a bunch of tanks which don't really interact with my army. You're just gonna like a-click buildings with them. I mean, it's maybe oversimplifying it, um, but yeah, you're just gonna a-click buildings with them, and have 5 APM. That's clearly what Endo is doing. No, no, no. But I'm just teasing. But yeah, you're gonna do that, and it's sort of non-interactive. Like he did the Blizzard Zeppelin harass thing, and you might say, you know, me just going straight for destroyers and stuff is that interactive. But I mean, I was like, we were fighting in his base. I was harassing. I was trying to harass his creep and stuff like that. And he's dancing his, workers and stuff. And he's trying to, we're doing hit and runs and stuff. When we have these engagements, and it's cool or whatever. And then, you know, oh, he's actually messaging me right now. He's gonna be a star on his own, on his own replay analysis. Oh, that's pretty funny. Uh, Let me respond to him. Um, but anyways, that's gonna be the end of the audio. I'll probably do some games here with him, or whatever. But yeah, no joke that this was I don't really mind these game types. Like, I mean, obviously, I would have been totally gutted if I punted away the win, the game by like just like not maybe not seeing that blizzard harass or like a tank, those tanks rolling me. It's just really like tanks. Like I like to be very aggressive in towers. Like they just really thwart that aggression. So so yeah. But anyways, it was a fun game. It's no slight on Endo. He executed very well. I often get wrecked when I try those tank strategies too. So in solo, so it is what it is. But what's he saying? JK, what's he say? Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I do. I did pretty like in terms of my skills or whatever. This was like one of my better games, honestly. I very easily could have lost acolytes during that harass, or like lost the hero on the harass and stuff like that. So, gave him a pretty decent game as far as like my levels go. But anyways, though, it's gonna be the end of this audio. ScryMind signing out.